The sun was just starting to dip low, throwing long shadows across the quiet suburban street. My kids were out front, playing catch in the yard, laughter echoing through the neighborhood. It was one of those rare evenings where everything felt peaceful, like life had slowed down just enough to let me take it all in. Then, out of nowhere, a man in a cheap-looking security uniform strutted up the sidewalk. He had a clipboard tucked under his arm, a fake badge pinned to his chest, and a look on his face that screamed authority. Even though something about him felt off right away, I watched from the porch as he marched straight toward my kids. His voice was sharp, almost barking, as he shouted, "You kids can't play here. This is HOA property, and you're breaking the rules." My daughter froze, the ball slipping from her hands, while my son took a nervous step back. My stomach tightened. I'd seen enough of men like this guys who try to make themselves feel powerful by picking on those smaller than them. But this wasn't just anyone he was yelling at. These were my children. I stood up slowly, keeping my eyes locked on him as I made my way down the steps. I didn't say anything at first, just watched as he waved his clipboard around like it was a weapon. The way he spoke to them, harsh and threatening, stirred something deep inside me. "You don't raise your voice at my kids? Not now, not ever." "Excuse me," I finally said, my voice calm but carrying enough weight to make him glance at me. He barely looked fazed, though, and snapped back. "Your kids are trespassing. If they don't go inside, I'll have to write this up. Rules are rules." His words were dripping with fake confidence, but I could already see the cracks. No HOA cop has the authority to threaten children. And in this neighborhood, there was no HOA to begin with. My kids were looking at me now, waiting for me to step. And I gave them a small nod, letting them know I had this under control. Then I turned my full attention to the man. I stepped closer, close enough to read the details on his badge, and sure enough, wasn't official. Just some plastic knockoff you could order online. His uniform was mismatched, his belt empty of any real equipment. The only thing he had was his arrogance. "Why don't you tell me exactly who you work for?" I asked him. He shifted uncomfortably, but then tried to puff his chest out again. "I work for the HOA. I keep this neighborhood in line. People like you don't get to break the rules and let your kids run wild." He said it with so much conviction, like he actually believed his lie could hold weight. But I knew better. I'd spent years in special forces, reading people, watching their every move. I could tell when a man was bluffing. And this guy, he was bluffing hard. The tension was thick, my kids still standing there silently, watching me. I decided to play along a little longer to see how far he'd go. "So," I said evenly, "you're saying you have the authority to threaten children? To tell them they can't play in their own yard?" He blinked, his eyes darting away for just a second, but then he snapped back with, "They don't listen, I can call the police. I'll have them removed." That was it. He crossed a line he should have never stepped near, threatening my children with the police for playing catch. That wasn't just overstepping, was harassment. And now it was time for him to understand exactly who he was dealing with. I reached into my back pocket and pulled out my wallet. Slowly, deliberately, I flipped it open and showed him the badge I still carried. It wasn't for show. It wasn't fake. It was the real deal. His eyes went wide, his posture stiffening as he realized what he was looking at. I didn't raise my voice. I didn't need to. I simply said, "I'm a retired Special Forces captain, and I don't take kindly to strangers threatening my family." The color drained from his face, and for the first time, he had nothing to say. The false confidence, the fake authority all crumbled in an instant. My kids glanced at me, their fear slowly turning into relief as they realized I was in control. I kept my gaze fixed on the man, letting the silence stretch just long enough to make him sweat. This was no longer about a game of authority. This was about protecting my children, my home, and making sure this imposter knew he had no power. Here, but I wasn't done yet. He needed to understand the weight of what he'd done. He needed to know that threatening children wasn't just wrong, it was dangerous. And I was going to make sure he walked away knowing he'd picked the wrong family to mess with. The man stood frozen, his fake badge suddenly feeling heavier than the clipboard clutched in his hand. His eyes flickered between my kids and the real badge in mine, and I could see the panic starting to set in. He tried to laugh it off, forcing a weak chuckle. Well, I didn't mean anything serious. Just making sure the neighborhood rules are followed. I didn't smile. My voice stayed steady, low, controlled. There are no neighborhood rules here. And there's no HOA. So why don't you tell me again, who exactly are you, and why are you harassing my children? The silence that followed was deafening. My kids shifted uneasily, but I kept my eyes on him, never breaking contact. He finally stammered, I was just trying to keep order. People around here, they need someone to keep things straight. His excuse was pathetic, and he knew it. I stepped closer, close enough that he could feel the weight of my presence. You don't keep order by threatening kids. That's not authority. That's cowardice. I let the words sink in, each syllable cutting through the fake confidence he'd been clinging to. He swallowed hard, his Adam's apple bobbing. Something in his eyes shifted, then anger, like a cornered animal, realizing it had nowhere to run. He straightened, trying to salvage whatever dignity he thought he had left. Look, he snapped. I don't care who you are. If your kids keep playing out here, I'll file a complaint. You think that badge means you're above the rules? You're not. His tone was shaky, but there was a spark of defiance buried in it. That was his mistake. Instead of backing down, he tried to push back. And now, I knew he wasn't just some bored guy in a costume. He had an agenda. But what was it? Why target me, my kids, my home? I took a slow breath, keeping my composure. You're digging a hole you can't climb out of. I suggest you stop now. My voice wasn't a threat. It was a warning, a lifeline, really. But he ignored it. He jabbed a finger at my kids. They can't play here. I'll make sure of it. I'll have you all removed. My daughter's lip trembled, and my son clenched his fists at his sides. That was it. Enough was enough. I took a step closer, towering over him now. If you so much as look at my children the wrong way again, I said slowly, you'll be dealing with more than a retired captain. You'll be dealing with a father. And I promise you, that's a battle you won't win. For the first time, his bravado cracked completely. He stumbled back a step, the clipboard nearly slipping from his sweaty grip. But instead of walking away, he muttered something under his breath, low, angry, but just loud enough for me to catch it. This isn't over. That sent a chill down my spine. It wasn't just bluster. It was venom in his words, a promise of something darker. I didn't show it on my face, but inside, every instinct I'd honed over the years went on high alert. This wasn't some random encounter. This was deliberate. I put a hand on my son's shoulder, guiding both kids toward the porch. Inside, now. They obeyed, casting nervous glances over their shoulders as they disappeared into the house. I stayed outside, never taking my eyes off the man. You've got one chance, I told him. Walk away. For a long moment, he just stood there, breathing hard, fists clenched at his sides. Then, slowly, he turned and stalked off down the sidewalk, muttering to himself. I watched until he vanished around the corner. Only then did I let out the breath I'd been holding. But my gut told me it wasn't finished, not by a long shot. The way he looked at my kids, the way he spoke, was personal. He wasn't just pretending to be HOA. He was hiding behind that fake role for something else died. Inside, my kids were waiting. My daughter threw her arms around me, her small voice muffled against my chest. "Daddy, is he coming back?" My son, trying to act braver than he felt, stood beside her, but I could see the worry in his eyes. I knelt down, meeting their gaze. "Listen to me. No one hurts you while I'm here. Do you understand?" They both nodded, though fear still lingered in their expressions. I hugged them tight, my mind racing. Who was that man, really? And why was he targeting us? That night, after the kids were asleep, I sat at the kitchen table, badge lying in front of me, replaying every detail. The fake uniform, the plastic badge, the threats. And that final warning, this isn't over. My instincts were screaming at me. This wasn't about rules or kids playing outside. This was bigger. And if he thought he could scare me into backing down, he'd chosen the wrong family, because I wasn't just going to wait for him to come back. I was going to find out exactly who he was, what he wanted, and why he thought he could threaten my children, and the next time we crossed paths, it wouldn't end with him walking away. That night, I hardly slept. Every creak of the house, every rustle outside the window kept me on edge. My instincts told me he would come back, and when he did, I needed to be ready. The uniform he wore, the false authority, the way he singled out my kids, none of it was random. He was testing me, testing how far he could push before I broke. He underestimated just how far a father will go when his children are threatened. The next day passed quietly. Almost too quietly. My kids stayed indoors, restless but obedient. I busied myself with small tasks, but my eyes never strayed far from the window. By evening, the air had shifted. You can feel it when something's about to happen. The silence outside grows heavier. The shadows seem thicker. And then I saw him. He wasn't in the same fake uniform this time. No badge, no clipboard. Just dark clothes, a cap pulled low, and that same bitter expression etched into his face. He wasn't pretending anymore. He was here for something else. I stepped out onto the porch before he could get closer. "You really want to go down this road?" I asked, my voice steady, carrying just enough warning to cut through the night air. His lips curled into a smirk. "Your badge doesn't scare me," he spat. "This neighborhood's mine now. You and your kids, you don't belong here." My jaw tightened. It was clearer now. He wasn't some random crank playing pretend. He wanted control, power, and he thought intimidation would hand it to him. But this wasn't his neighborhood, and my family sure as hell wasn't his to threaten. I stepped off the porch, closing the space between us. "You listen to me," I said, low and firm. "You come near my kids again, you so much as breathe in their direction, and I won't need a badge to stop you. You understand me?" His eyes flickered, but he forced himself to hold my stare. Then he chuckled, a dark, hollow sound. "Big talk," he muttered. "But you can't watch them forever. I'll always be here, waiting, watching." The words sent a chill down my spine, not because I was afraid, but because I knew he believed them. He wasn't bluffing, he was obsessed, twisted. This wasn't about my kids playing in the yard. This was about control, and in his mind, you were standing in the way. That's when I realized, if I let this drag on, if I gave him even one more chance to circle back, I'd be putting my children at risk. And that wasn't an option. I pulled out my phone, dialing a number I hadn't used in years. An old partner, still on the force. When he answered, I kept my eyes on the man standing across from me. "Got a situation?" I said calmly. "Impersonation. Threats against minors. I need a patrol out here now." The man's smirk faltered. He hadn't expected me to call his bluff with backup. Took a step back. Then another, his bravado slipping. "You think you're safe because of them?" he snarled. they won't always be around. The sound of sirens in the distance cut through his words like a blade. His eyes widened, and for the first time, I saw genuine fear flicker across his face. He spun on his heel and bolted down the street, disappearing into the night. Minutes later, squad cars rolled up. I gave them everything's description, behavior, threats. My partner assured me they'd find him, that he wouldn't get far. But even as I watched the cruisers drive off into the dark, I knew this wasn't just about one man playing cop. It was deeper. He'd chosen us for a reason, and until I knew why, I couldn't let my guard down. Back inside, my kids were waiting. By the window, eyes wide. I knelt down, pulling them close. "He's gone," I whispered. "And he's not coming back tonight." My daughter's voice trembled. "But what if he does?" I kissed the top of her head, steadying my voice. "Then he'll have to go through me first, and that's something he'll never do." Later, as the house finally settled into silence, I sat alone in the dark. The badge rested on the table in front of me, a reminder of the years I'd spent upholding the law. But this was different. This was personal. The man thought he could scare me. He thought he could break my family. But he'd made the biggest mistake of his life. He threatened my children. And as long as I was breathing, I would never let that happen again. That's when it hit me. The story wasn't over. It was only just beginning.